You probably saw it. When India's Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft touched down on the moon's south pole, the whole world was watching. Just an absolutely monumental achievement. But this wasn't just a single victory. It was the start of a whole new chapter. So how on earth did India pull it off? And what does it really mean for the future of space? Well, to figure that out, we need to dig into the revolution that's happening right now.
All right, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll rewind back to the program's visionary start to really get its unique DNA. Then, we'll look at how that foundation is being totally transformed into a modern ecosystem. That transformation is kicking off a new private frontier, which we'll explore next. And finally, we'll look ahead at the massive ambitions and, of course, the challenges standing in the way.
So let's start at the beginning. The story of India's space program isn't just about rockets and satellites, it's about a really powerful idea that took root over 60 years ago.
This quote right here, it says it all. From day one, India's space program, led by its founder, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, had a completely different mission. It wasn't about prestige or winning a Cold War space race. It was about using this incredible technology to solve real problems on the ground, for better communication, for smarter agriculture, for national development.
And that mission leads to this incredible question. I mean, the program's beginnings were famously humble. We're talking rocket parts being carried on the back of bicycles, a launch pad in a converted church. So how did that become a global power that could land on the moon and send a probe to Mars on its very first attempt?
Well, the buildup was steady and super strategic. It all started in '62 with a committee, which by 1969 became the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. In 1975, India launched its first satellite, Aryabhata. But the real game changer, that came in 1994 when the PSLV rocket became operational. This thing was a reliable workhorse that gave India true self-reliance, a foundation that led directly to those stunning successes, like the Mongolian Mars mission in 2013.
And that Mars mission perfectly showcases a core ISRO trait: frugal innovation. The entire mission cost just 450 crore rupees. That's about 74 million US dollars. To put that in perspective, it was literally cheaper than making the Hollywood movie Gravity. Think about that for a second. This wasn't about being cheap. It was about ingenious, cost-effective engineering, using simpler designs and local talent to get world-class results. And that legacy of innovation has stormed right into the present. The historic Chandrayaan-3 landing in 2023 made India the first nation ever to soft land near the lunar South Pole. And just a few months later, the Aditya L1 mission was perfectly placed in orbit to study the sun. These aren't just one-off wins, they're a massive statement of capability. Okay, that brings us to our second section. Because the story today is no longer just about ISRO. A fundamental restructuring is going on, creating a whole new ecosystem for space in India. You see, for decades, ISRO was this monolithic giant. It did everything. It was the researcher, the developer, the manufacturer, the launch provider, and the sales team, all rolled into one. And while that was incredibly successful, it also created a bottleneck that kind of slowed down the sector's overall growth. So the solution was to unbundle ISRO's many roles. This new three-pillar structure creates a really clear division of labor. ISRO is now freed up to focus on what it does best: mind-bending R&D and deep space exploration. A new body, IN Space, acts as the single-window agency to authorize and promote private companies. And New Space India Limited, or NSIL, handles the business side, marketing India's space tech to the world. And wow, what a portfolio NSIL has to sell. India has this super versatile fleet of rockets. Think of them as small, medium, and large trucks for space. You've got the legendary PSLV workhorse for smaller satellites, the GSLV for the heavier ones, and then the mighty LVM-3, the heavy lifter that launched Chandrayaan-3 and will one day carry India's astronauts. And this is where space tech stops being this abstract thing and becomes part of your everyday life. India's Navik is its very own version of GPS. Its Earth observation satellites are vital for everything from farming to disaster relief. And the INSAT and GSAT constellations, they're literally the backbone of the country's television and telecommunications. This brings us to the third part, and honestly, maybe the most revolutionary part of this story: throwing the doors wide open to the private sector. The recent policy changes have basically fired the starting gun for a whole new commercial space race inside India. And the ambition here is just enormous. The goal? To grow India's space economy to $44 billion by 2033. That means quadrupling its share of the global market, going from about 2% today to 8%. This isn't just about a few startups, it's a major national economic strategy.
The centerpiece of this whole strategy is the Indian Space Policy of 2023. Its main goal is simple, but absolutely crucial: provide regulatory certainty. For investors, for entrepreneurs, that's everything. For the first time, private companies have a clear rulebook, letting them plan, invest, and run entire space missions from start to finish.
And the scale of this change is just profound. Before, private companies were basically just suppliers to ISRO. Now, they can build and fly their own satellites and rockets. ISRO shifts from being the gatekeeper to a research-focused partner. Foreign investment rules are being relaxed, and InSpace acts as that one-stop shop, making it way easier for new businesses to get started.
So, with this incredible new framework in place, what's next? In our final section, we'll look at the very real hurdles that are still there and the truly inspiring ambitions that lie just over the horizon.
Yeah, making this vision a reality won't be easy. There are some significant hurdles to clear. The supply chain is a big one. India still relies on imports for critical space-grade stuff. On the rules side, while the new policy is a huge step, a more comprehensive Space Act is probably needed to give investors that long-term legal confidence. And then there's infrastructure. With only one major spaceport, there's a physical limit to how many rockets can actually take off.
But the ambitions are more than a match for these challenges. The flagship program is Gaganyaan, India's mission to send its own astronauts, or Vionauts, into orbit. It's a meticulous, step-by-step process: uncrewed test flights, super rigorous validation of the crew escape system, and module prep, all building towards that first crewed launch, which is targeted for 2027 or 2028.
And Gaganyaan is just the beginning. The long-term Space Vision 2047 is even more breathtaking. We're talking about plans for an Indian space station, a mission to land an Indian astronaut on the moon, and developing the next generation of powerful, reusable rockets to make it all happen. So this brings us right back to our central question. India has totally re-engineered its approach to space, moving from a state-run program to a dynamic public-private partnership. The ultimate test now is whether this new, unlocked ecosystem can deliver the speed and innovation needed to win in the 21st century space race. The world is definitely watching.